Good evening. I am Zena Krogadal.
And I'm Chris Krogadal.
And welcome to a special episode of Partners to Powerhouse on a Friday evening. So get your date on and let's get started.
Yeah.
So for those of you that are viewing live, thank you so much for being here. And please give StreamYard permission. Go to streamyard.com/Facebook. and give StreamYard permission so that we can see your comments, because we actually would like this to be interactive. So if you've got any questions that you want answered or you have comments or anything, please don't be shy and jump in on the conversation. So, being married and being Christians, it can be an interesting dynamic, and it can be in many ways counter-cultural, would you say? Because in the world, the concept of marriage is so very different, and the expectations of marriage can be very different than what reality is. Would you say that, Chris? Is that true?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. And so what, we want to challenge you as we have this discussion is to think about what the culture expectations of marriages are, and what is the reality of marriage for you. Or maybe you want to know, maybe you don't really know what the expectation of what it is to be a Christian and to be married. I know that statistically there are, couples who don't make it 8 years of marriage. I believe it's 8 years that the marriage generally will not last. And so that's kind of really sad. And that's in the secular world, and is also in the Christian world. So that tells us a little bit of something. Now, just a little bit of background about Chris and I. We have been counseling marriages for over 10 years now. Marriage coaching, marriage counseling, whatever you may want to call it, but biblical counselors within our church over the past 10 years, maybe even 12 years now. And so we've had the honor and the privilege of really helping couples to work through some issues and heal in it. Now, something that comes along that is very interesting is that many times when the honeymoon period wears off and the rose-colored glasses come off, and maybe it's not even like after the honeymoon period, it can be like maybe a decade or 2 or 3 or whatever, but certain points of our lives, someone says, or both people may say, help, I think I married the wrong person. So, it's kind of interesting. I think I married the wrong person. Help. What do you say to that?
Yeah, it makes sense. Of course they do.
Of course they do what?
Marry the wrong person.
Oh, what do you mean? I'm not understanding. What do you mean? Of course they do marry the wrong person.
Of course, yeah, I need to explain. So God's grand plan for marriage is that they kill each other.
What? God's grand plan is that they kill each other?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm thinking this needs a little bit more explanation, don't you guys?
Oh, yeah, I can totally explain this. So Ephesians chapter 5 in the Bible tells us that husbands are to love their wives as Jesus loves the church. And he gave up his life for the church.
Well, yeah, that I guess that's true. He did give his life up for the church, but he literally gave his life up for the church. So are you saying that we literally have to give our life up for each other in order to have the marriage that God has intended us to have?
Thankfully, no.
Wow, because I was thinking we're hitting about 20 years here, and what are you saying here?
Right, I know. So, yeah, how are we doing? So no, actually, what that means is that we are to die daily. For if we love someone, we're to think of their needs above our own. So we sacrifice what I would want to do for what she wants to do or what she needs. And so that's the sacrificial. And Jesus said it really well, I believe, when he said that we are to deny ourselves, pick up our cross, and follow him.
That is a very, very great explanation. And I'm really glad that you clarified, because I was getting a little bit nervous there.
Me too.
But you make a great point, Chris, that I'm going to go back to that dying, that God created marriage so that we can kill each other. Wow. But there is something there I want to unpack a little bit. I do believe that for a lot of us, the concept of dying for each other physically is actually a pretty easy concept. Like, you would easily take a bullet for me. You would even hesitate, right?
Absolutely.
And I would do the same thing. I would trade any circumstance, to trade you, to spare you death. I would take that on. That would be an easy thing. But the reality is, how often does that situation or opportunity occur that you would have to physically lay down your life for the other?
Not very.
Okay. But on a daily basis, we have opportunities every day to lay down our life for each other.
Tons.
Okay. So let me recap here. So when somebody says that, help, I think I married the wrong person, and you say, of course you did. It's a no-brainer, because God intended it that way. Am I getting this right so far?
Yep,
okay.
You're right on.
Of course you married the wrong person, quote unquote, because God intended you to, and actually what he really means, I'm going to interpret here a little bit. I believe what my husband's really saying is that it has been God's design that it feels like you're marrying the wrong person. You didn't really marry the wrong person. It's that it feels like you're married to the wrong person, because you have to die to yourself daily. Yes? Is that really kind of what you were saying there?
Yes, because it can be very uncomfortable. It can be very awkward. It can be sometimes it's just annoying too, until you realize that it's very rewarding. Because when for example, when I love my wife, I do a loving act for her. I do something that meets her needs. Then it's not a guarantee, but I can tell you, with her, it pretty much is, because she's amazing. But inherently, the spouse will then want to return that. And typically, actually, the way God designed us, that wives will actually be more respectful, or more, what's the term? They recognize the man for what he does. They think about those things.
Appreciate.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So a man's basic need is to be appreciated, is what I'm hearing you say.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah. So apparently, God's design is that he put us together, and the culture, our culture, and I know reading romantic comedies, movies, or reading books, romance books, and watching romantic comedies. I guess that's how that goes. Watching romantic rom-coms, as they call it, has put this image that when you get married, it should be easy, because when you meet your soulmate, it should be an easy process, that you shouldn't feel like this is hard. But then, like I said, when the honeymoon wears off, or the rose colors come off, or the kids leave the house, and now you're forced to actually be together and communicate with each other, sometimes we don't feel like we are soulmates. We're not. Sometimes it may feel like you're roommates more than you're soulmates. So,
soulmates is achieved through a lot of real work. Really, it's doing what we were just talking about. It's daily thinking of the needs of the other person before your own, and caring about them, and and working through these things. A relationship grows and develops over time, better and better and better. I mean, that's the ideal way it should, and that's where a marriage really can become what God intended it for it to be.
Yeah, that's so very true. That when we can focus on each other's needs versus on what am I going to get out of this marriage. I think that's what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
Because many times
Right.
we think about what am I going to get out of this marriage, and reading those books and watching those movies put an image and an expectation that there's certain things that we should be getting out of marriage, that you're supposed to be my better half. But really, the reality is that you're not really my better half, because I'm a whole person already.
You're my better
and
half.
you're a whole person. So that means to call you the better half isn't even really a true statement,
No.
right? Because we're supposed to be two whole people coming together, and gelling, working towards a common goal, a common mission, a common assignment that God has given us, right?
Right. And that's two becoming one, two being better than one together. The Bible talks about this. Two are better than one, and gives several examples of why.
Yeah, I believe that's in Ecclesiastes, right?
Chapter 9, I think.
Chapter 4, actually. Chapter 4.
4.
So Ecclesiastes is, that maybe the one may be overpowered, two can defend themselves. A three-cord strand is not quickly broken. So in Ecclesiastes 4, says that two are better than one because you get a greater return for your labor, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that is very true. So he designed marriage so that individually, and even though you're a whole person and you can accomplish and do well, but together you can accomplish even more, gain more, and you can also help each other when there's attacks or something happening. So many times when you feel like, help, I married the wrong person, perhaps we need to step back and say, you didn't really marry the wrong person, but actually this is by design, that it feels like it's challenging because it was meant to be a challenge to help us to grow into the person, to discover the person that God had purposed us to be. Is that a true statement? Would you find that to be a true statement?
Yeah, that's true. I mean, if anybody's being a wrong person, it would be the person that's saying that at the time, because they're not being what they need to be. It's like when, for a quick example, my dad taught me when I was a kid, when I complained I have no friends, and he said, well, you have to be a good friend to have good friends, and it's no different. We have to be I have to be a good husband. I have to be a loving husband, really, for my wife to really, well, I wouldn't say it's all dependent upon me, but it's certainly very much helpful if I love her truly, that she's going to rise up and become a beautiful woman.
Hi, Carrie. Thanks for being here. So good to see you. And hi, Bob.
Hi, Bob.
Bob Donnell. Thank you so much for being here.
Okay.
Thank you very much, you guys, for being here. If you got any questions, please let us know, because we'd love to have this be a lively discussion. Have you found that soulmates are created, not necessarily instantly made? And we're having this discussion here is, help, I married the wrong person. That there may be times that you feel like things just aren't jiving and you're just really having a difficult time, and you may feel like you just married a stranger. And to be honest, sometimes that is the case, because we should always be growing and changing and getting better. So that means that the person you married isn't going to be the same person that you're married to today. Because I can say that we are almost to 20 years of marriage, and you are very different than you were the day that I said I do to. Yeah. and and I'm a very different person.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And so it has been an ongoing getting to know each other. But the key component to getting through all this, and the key component too, I believe, of truly becoming soulmates and being able to even get towards that is being able to communicate with each other.
True.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So not only is it to die to yourselves, as you put it, that marriage was intended to kill each other off, but it is to absolutely help each other grow and become the best versions of ourselves. Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So many times, and I want to be really real and raw here, that in order for us to have really come to that place of being able to die to each other, to be able to put his needs before my own, I had to do a lot of my own inner work. Like I had to discover who Zena was in God's eyes. I had to discover the woman that God had purposed and designed me to be and the assignment that he had been giving me. And I've been given a high calling to be your wife, which is a real honor and a privilege. But in the beginning, I didn't see it that way. In the beginning, I kind of saw it as a real chore. That's the raw and honest truth. And so, it's that shift in perspective, that mindset and perspective shift that I think sometimes doesn't happen, and that may be why some couples call it quits before the 8-year mark. Would you think that that would be?
That makes a lot of sense.
Because when I look back to our marriage from year 1 to year 8, there was a lot of things going on from year 1 to year 8.
Yes.
One, you were in law enforcement.
Yes.
So you had terrible work schedule.
True.
Right? Because for a good half of those 8 years, you were working the night shift. Like we're talking the graveyard shift, where it was like 6 in the evening to 6 in the morning or something like that. 7 in the evening to 7. I can't even remember, but it was somewhere basically it was from when I got home from work with the kids, got home from work, went to go get the kids. And by the time I got home, we might have like been able to say kiss goodbye, hi, bye, like maybe a 5-minute, good to see you later. And then when I woke up was when you came home, and it was the same thing again. It was a quick hello and goodbye. And our days off were not the same days off.
No.
So do you remember, just going back down memory lane here, do you remember what that was like in the beginning of our marriage when we had to kind of go through all of that?
Well, I probably don't remember everything, honestly, but I do remember that we didn't connect real well. I mean, our communication was limited, and there was a lot of things that we probably that we definitely should have talked about that we really didn't, or at least in the fullness of what we needed to.
Well, yeah. So we didn't get a lot of practice time in, for one, right? Because we didn't see each other much, and our days off were different. I mean, seriously, it was like two ships passing in the night kind of situation. And our days off were not together. In fact, the only day off we had together for a long time was Sundays. And on Sundays, we served at church, so it wasn't even our alone time. We get up, and in fact, you would be really tired because you were trying to adjust to the daytime. And we would get to church, and we'd spend pretty much all morning at church because we served there and we loved serving. But by the time we got home, it was late in the afternoon, and you were pretty tired. And so that was our day off. And so those first 8 years of marriage were very, very challenging for us in so many ways. But I know that I had to really rely on the Lord in those years, because it was a very lonely road even though we were married, I still felt like I was a single mom, although my bank account was a lot bigger. So that was nice.
Yeah.
But I didn't have the husband there to come to the parent teacher conferences. I didn't have my husband to come to the soccer games or the baseball games or any of those things. And so those were very, very interesting years. And there were moments that I will be honest, I thought, whoa, help, I think I married the wrong person. Because it was challenging. I mean, that's the honest truth, because it was challenging. Because it was like, wow, what did I get myself into? Because I thought we were soulmates and this should be a lot easier. And yet it's not. And law enforcement, for those of you who are in law enforcement, I think you can understand this. That poses a whole nother challenge in a relationship anyways, because the stress of the job, for those who are serving in our public safety community to keep our community safe, it's a huge burden for those. So I want to thank you, the first responders out there that are taking those shifts, and you are absolutely sacrificing, and your marriage and your family feel it.
Let me say something to that.
Yeah. Yes, please.
So, first responders, they come home and there's definitely most or many things that happen on the job that you don't want to talk to your wife, your family about. That you don't think it's any good to do that. And so that is one of the things too, that you come home and you're kind of, even if you're really not, you come across as being closed off to your partner, and that's not a great way to communicate or to have a communication environment. So that's one of the big dynamics.
That is a big dynamics. And when you're talking about sharing details and having a conversation, many times those conversations can be tough because you're trying to protect me, because there are things that you experience that you definitely didn't want me to have to experience. I mean, you saw things and experienced things that human beings really shouldn't have to. Like, you got to see things that happen to other people in a very traumatic way, and you had to carry that vision and those burdens home. And so for those of you, like I said, out there who are in law enforcement and firefighters, I mean, first responders, it is a tough job, first and foremost. And secondly, there's a lot of sacrifice. There's a lot of things that you bring into your family and your marriage. So your family really does end up sacrificing so much. And we have to, in order to make it, because many couples, even in law enforcement and even in the firefighting world and even the paramedic world, have a hard time maintaining their relationships, because not being able to connect emotionally, because you don't know where to start sharing, like, right.
You're afraid that if you start sharing on something that might be okay, that it's going to lead right into something that isn't.
Yeah. So yeah, absolutely, it poses a whole nother dynamic. And so what I was getting to is that I had to shift my perspective on so many levels. So not only was like, whoa, I think I might have married the wrong person, because is this the life that I really wanted to be committed to? I didn't really understand what that life was going to look like until I lived that life. And secondly, it just didn't come easily. That soulmate connection didn't come easily. Like, we actually had to work at it. But we fortunately made a commitment to each other from the beginning that we would put in every effort to make the marriage work. And so I'm so thankful to you that you were willing to come to marriage conferences with me, willing to read books, willing to do home group studies on, I think we did Love and Respect like 5 or 6 times with several small groups. And that was so beneficial with Dr. Emerson Eggerich, all of his DVDs and stuff.
Yes, it was very good.
Yeah. And so that was such an eye opener, and really, really helped me to shift my mindset and to shift my perspective, so that I could see things in a whole different way, that it's not wrong. You're not wrong. I wasn't wrong. We weren't created, like, God did not make a mistake and made us different by mistake, that it was actually by design that we're different. So we're not wrong, we're just different.
Hmm.
And so when we can really learn to accept that and see it for what it is, and then learn how to communicate with one another in that fashion, it definitely changed things. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's a good point, a good general point. Even if it's not a law enforcement, job situation, that it's also important for both of the marriage partners to um, have have a social life, so to speak, have good friends, a good church, um, and that you both are involved. I mean, you don't have to be. She can have friends that I don't really know well. I can have friends that she doesn't know super well, but you know, that's very important to have that as well. And then, like you were just saying, is so true that you learn that our differences, our Creator gave us these differences so that we would learn to complement each other. And if we do it the way He designed it for us, then we do complement each other, and it's a blessing to both. Um, you know,
Yeah, definitely a blessing to both, and definitely realize that no, I didn't marry the wrong person.
right?
I married the right person.
Yes.
And the right person has helped me to discover who my true identity is, who God really had designed me to be. Like, it really helped me to take a really deep look and look in the mirror and see who I was, and really gain that confidence. And once I gained that confidence, I feel like it changed our relationship dynamics, in many ways. I
Mhm.
don't know if you thought so, but on my perspective, it seemed like it did.
Oh yeah, it did, and that was 12 years ago, about. But even the last 5 years have been even better, just even more so. And here we're
Yeah.
we're we're pushing. Well, we're about 50 years old.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
still, and it's getting better and better.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and that is absolutely by no accident. That was actually intentional for sure. And learning to really understand each other in a deeper level, not even just by words, and not even just learning how to communicate by our word, but even learning how to communicate non-verbally. Now, I know you had some training in law enforcement on nonverbal cues and that sort of thing, but I think even learning to a deeper level that we have
Mhm.
in the last year or so has changed the dynamics of even how we communicate and understanding on the nonverbal part. And so interesting is that our nonverbal communication is 97% of communication. It's actually, the words are only 7%. So that's kind of really interesting too. But even
Yeah.
those 7%, we have to be careful, because words, as God's word says, can bring life or death. And so we have to be careful even just within our words. But we really have to be careful even in the nonverbal side, our subconscious. What is our subconscious doing? What thoughts or feelings do we have? Because our thoughts and our feelings actually will determine our body language, and our body language will determine our actions. And so we have to be very, very careful in making sure that at all times we are looking to change the mindset when it's needed. For instance, I'm going to give an example. For instance, if we're having a hard day and very frustrated with our spouse, to switch, to capture that thought and take it captive and just throw it out, we need to replace it with another thought. So instead of being frustrated that your husband, for the 10th time that you asked him to do something and he didn't do it, which I understand, ladies, that is very frustrating. But instead of focusing on that he didn't do it, let's shift it to, well, what did he do? And let's give him gratitude and tell him thank you for the things that he did do, even if it's small, even if it was just, putting the dishes away or whatever it is that he did, even if it's small, to be sure that we give that thanks and have that grateful attitude, and it'll shift. And then that item that we did, and I think if we can really um, I don't know if the word called play it up, but really show that appreciation and that respect, that appreciation motivates him to get to that item
Mhm.
that he didn't get to for the 10th time, because now he realizes, oh, shoot.
Yeah, but by example, if there's 10 things that the wife wants the husband to do today and he does one of them, if she doesn't focus on the 9 but focuses on the 1 and says, "Thank you. You did a great job on that. Thank you for doing that." Then that, like you said, it motivates him, and it may not be right away, but if she continues that dynamic of being thankful for what he does do and focusing on the positive rather than on the negative, even if the negative is 90% of it, then he will be motivated, because that's a real need for men, whether they admit it or not. It is a real need for others to recognize them, not necessarily in a prideful way, but to be recognized, to be respected, and especially our wives.
Yeah. Uh, Dr. John Gray, he says that men are motivated, I believe, through appreciation, being appreciated, and women are motivated by being cherished. So when those things occur, we definitely will feel more connected and feel more like being romantic with each other, which, every man wants that, right? To be romantic with each other. So the more he helps her with her chores or does the things on the list, the more she's probably going to feel romantic. So just a little key here, guys. Get to those honey-do lists and get to them fast, okay? So because the faster you can, a woman shouldn't keep reminding you every 6 months to complete the task. So true, Joe. That is so true. Um,
Yeah.
but I tell you what, most women, when you do complete those tasks, it is like you really cherishing them. And so these are, absolutely the dynamics of a husband and wife, and how we can best communicate with each other and show each other how we care about each other is, like you said, dying to yourself on the little things. It's not so much the big um, episodes of life that occur, because let's face it, the reality is that it's very rare that you're going to come across a situation that you're
Mhm.
physically going to have to take a bullet for me or take the knife for me or any of that. But every day there's opportunities for you to die to yourself and get to that honeydew list. Wink, wink.
Yeah. The other side of that too is so important, that if you do die daily, daily, so to speak, whenever there's opportunities, um, that it becomes a lifestyle. It becomes a part of your makeup. Really, it becomes part of your desire, so that when that life or death situation does come, it's automatic. Okay, there's no hesitation. There's no like, oh, this is a little new. You know, it's just part of your life.
So it's kind of like when you did a lot of trainings, like when you were in law enforcement, you did a lot of trainings. Like that
Mhm.
was probably a big part of it. Like you guys had hot calls and stuff, but I believe you trained more than the calls came in.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
usually how it works.
And so you, on the training part, was you were basically conditioning yourselves, conditioning the unconscious part so that it's automatic, so that when the time came, it was just like this, right?
The common term was, you train the way you fight.
You train the way you fight. So in marriage, you train the way you fight.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, maybe not train the way you fight in marriage, but I guess kind of train the way you fight in
Maybe you
marriage.
practice the way you love, or something like
Yeah.
that. Maybe that's better.
But you know that, I mean, really train the way you fight. I suppose that is something you can apply, because if you train how you're going to resolve the conflict ahead of time, then you're probably going to do better, so that it doesn't become a heated battle. So I suppose we could just keep it that way.
Mhm.
Train the way you fight
In other
on a daily
words,
basis.
yeah. In other words, what applies to that in marriage would be things like, if both husband and wife work on communicating effectively, meaning they listen to each other, they um, try to really understand each other.
Mhm.
Okay, so that they can meet their needs, because they identify the needs first and then meet them. But if the husband and wife are doing those things, those are like foundational um, building blocks, if you want to call it that, in the marriage, so that everything else on top of it that happens has a foundation already. And so we are in a better place to truly love each other, for me to cherish her, for her to, what's the one for men?
Respect,
Respect.
appreciate.
I just like to hear her say it.
He also likes to hear me say that he's right, but
No.
I don't like to say that, though. That's a hard one. That's for sure.
But you know what? You have said it a few times.
Well,
So that's great.
because you have been right at least once in the 20 years. Yeah.
That one time you got it right. So
yeah, for sure, you guys. So I hope that this discussion, was helpful and that you found some value in it. But we certainly had a great time talking about these issues, and we absolutely would love to hear from you. And submit your questions to us, because we want to be able to address the questions that you have about relationships, about marriage. And that sort of thing, because I do believe that it's a conversation that needs to be had, and we're just not having enough of it. And I had talked about earlier before about how, for me, in the situation that we were in, because in my head, I thought that, if I was married to my soulmate, he would automatically know what I want and desire. He should be able to read my mind. I don't know why that he can't, kind of thing. And so I had to really learn how to, first of all, truly find my identity outside of my husband, because he's not my half. He's the other whole. I'm the whole and he's a whole. And together we make a very powerful team. But we only make a powerful team if we each come together whole and healed. And so I had to do a lot of soul searching, digging deep, soul excavation, allowing God to really bring out the queen inside of me, because he's the king and I'm the queen of our home. And there were times that I did not act like the queen. And so, what I'm alluding to is that, ladies, I want to invite you to an experience. If you are married, if you are engaged, or newly married, I want to invite you to come and have an experience with other women, to where we can come together and help each other and bring out the best in each other, to bring out, to discover the queen within. I'm going to share a page here real quick.
Rise up, queen.
Yeah. So let me see if I can share this here.
And when the queen in a marriage rises up, it motivates the king to rise up as he ought to, and vice versa.
Right. So that is true, because I do believe that it is a I guess you would call maybe synergistic effect, symbiotic effect, that when one changes and does something, it affects and brings the other one as well. And so I do want to invite ladies to this Rise Up Queen retreat. And I was going to show you, I'm sorry, bear with me as I am trying to figure out StreamYard, but it is going to be in Panama City Beach, Florida. And these are the things that you will gain: strategies for marital enrichment. And we're going to learn some communication. We're going to get some real practical tools and strategies. So we're definitely going to have some workshops, and we're going to have just sessions to have some personal growth and healing, because no matter where you are at in life, there's always room to continue to grow more. I'm learning more and more that until we take our last breath, there is always room to learn and grow some more. So I just want to invite you to come and spend 3 days in Panama City Beach with me, and let's discover that queen that is within. So I've got a special here. So I'm going to put on here the website that you can go to. And then also we have a coupon for those of you that are watching right now. And this is a limited time for this coupon. So I want you to, if you think about going, if you got some girlfriends that might want to come with you, let's make it a girls trip, a girls weekend. I've got a coupon, Queen 30, for 30% off. So go to let me try to get this onto the chat. So go to p2p-marriage and //retreat and click on the button and share it with somebody, because it's going to be a fantastic weekend. And guys that are on here, maybe you can encourage your wife to come and share this weekend with some other ladies. It's going to be fun to go on this beach. And if you've not been to Panama City Beach, it is an incredible, incredible beach. Really a fun time to relax in. And
we can see the pictures.
Yeah. So anyway, just wanted to give that invitation. Thank you so much for being here, you guys. Really appreciate all of you. And if you found this content to be of value, please share it out. We hope that this can resonate with somebody and maybe help somebody else out there. So we had a great time with you. Have a wonderful, wonderful evening. And we will see you next time. So make sure you submit those questions, because I definitely want to make sure that we tackle any questions that you may have. And we're going to say goodbye for now and have a wonderful, wonderful weekend.
Yeah, thanks for coming, being on here with us.
Bye, guys.